And welcome back here to OSCON 2011. My guest is Joe Bowser, software developer at Nitobi.
Yeah.
How goes?
It goes good.
Great. So, no secret here, works with PhoneGap. That means, well, you work?
Yeah, it means I work with PhoneGap. So I originally started PhoneGap Android back in 2008, mostly just to prove that you can have PhoneGap on something other than the iPhone. And then from there, worked on PhoneGap until back when it was a hobby and sort of like this hacker thing. And then then when a lot of people started using it for an Android really took off, we then got interest from IBM and other contributors, and that's when things got really crazy. And there's tons of commits, and now we're at where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, just step back a sec here. From what I understand it, you can correct me here, it's an open source development framework where you can develop mobile apps. You can check it out at phonegap.com, right? And that's Sony and Cisco are using it, so that's got an uptick there. Yeah. You've gotten some recognition from the O'Reilly community. I think you won the Expo Launchpad at the 2009 Web 2.0 Expo.
Yeah.
And it's been downloaded upwards of 350,000 times.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, it solves a problem for mobile developers. So it helps you port your app between different platforms?
That's correct. So what it allows you to do is, if you're a smaller company or you're a company that doesn't have the ability to resources or just doesn't want to spend the ability or resources to actually have multiple code bases, like an Objective-C code base and a Java code base for Android and another Java code base for BlackBerry. What you can do is you can actually use PhoneGap to have a common HTML and JavaScript code base for all your UI, so that you can actually write once and deploy to these devices. I mean, we're very close to doing that now.
Now, one of the big headaches I hear from mobile developers is there's a lot of different flavors of Android. I mean, open source gets developed and then put in lots of different kinds of devices. How does PhoneGap help with that?
Well, how does PhoneGap help with the Android?
Well, I guess the different versions of it that are out there.
So there's a lot of tricks that we use to actually, in Java, that we use to actually deal with the issue of different Android versions. So we deal with the Android version differences very well by using Java reflection and by detecting which version. We have the techniques that support all the way back to 1.5. We'll probably deprecate those soon, since it's only less than 3% of the current Android users, since most people are upgrading to 2.0 and 2.1, but we still find that we have to use a lot of those tricks in Honeycomb as well. So that's how we handle a lot of those issues. And then there's a lot of other issues that we do keep track of, and we're always looking for new ways to handle issues like difference, say, between HTC and Samsung devices.
So to shift a little bit, you track a lot of issues. One of them is clearly mobile security. I know you kind of travel and talk about that. As we move into this mobile health, which I just talked about with some guys here from Health Vault, and mobile commerce, where people are buying more and more, how serious are the risks there, and how well are mobile apps in general building in security and baking in privacy?
Well, the PhoneGap, this question actually comes a lot with PhoneGap. The issue with security is, like, how do you deal with security in a regular web app? How do you deal with security whenever you're having any sort of software that's on the client talk to the server? And a lot of these simple issues, like, for example, making sure that all your connections are in SSL. A lot of native apps are even found recently not doing that, which is actually a major concern, because while you're relatively safe on HSPA for the moment, if a lot of people are using Wi-Fi at Starbucks or wherever, and Wi-Fi isn't safe when you're not using SSL. So with PhoneGap, we do a lot of the same practices that a lot of other apps use, and we also have the advantage that that our code is open. So when you actually disassemble a PhoneGap app, it's interpreted JavaScript, so it's easier to audit, which is actually a plus, not a minus, because it means that you actually are aware of where your risks are. Whereas with native code, you can stick a tampered Java class and then send it back on the Android market. And even if you disassemble it, you're not, unless you're like really good at auditing like disassembled Java code, you're not going to really know right away. Like, it's not as obvious someone tampered with this as it is with PhoneGap.
So it sounds like the risks are there, but you're taking steps to mitigate them as you work through the development process.
Yes.
You're thinking it through. Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely thinking about it all the time.
So last question. You co-founded and helped run the Vancouver Hacker Space. what projects are happening there, and what role in general do you think hackerspaces are playing in the open source software and now open source hardware movement?
They're playing a critical role in the open source hardware movement. So I co-founded the Vancouver Hacker Space. It's it's one of the second wave hacker spaces that were sort of done after the last Hackers on Planet Earth conference in New York. We've been around for a couple years now. The projects that we've been working on, like a lot of people work in their individual projects like the nano hydropower, which was based on something that was in Make, and then there's kits that come out of it as well. And we recently had a mini maker fair in Vancouver, and it was actually really well attended, and it worked out really well for us.
Cool. Mini nano hydropower, or what are we talking about here?
So it's so the way it works is that you put like a tube in a string. It's not my project, so I might be getting it totally wrong.
Okay.
So you put this tube in a stream, and then it diverts the water into a little electric motor turbine, and it generates some either DC or AC current, which can then be used to charge cell phones or run small electronics projects or run lights, things like that. I don't know much more details about that. It looks really cool though.
Cool. Well, glad to see people are being creative in the hackerspace, and look forward to seeing what else comes out of it.
Okay.
Cool. Well, Joe, thank you for joining us here. If people want to learn more about PhoneGap, it's available at PhoneGap.com. And certainly look forward to hearing more about what happens in the next year in this space for you. Sounds like there's a lot moving forward quickly.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you.